So we have, yeah, so we have overall data source level. Now what we can do is, let's say now LODs comes into picture, fixed, include, exclude. They come into picture when there is a certain scenario where you want to keep the view at a certain level of detail. You don't want that level of detail of the view to be changed, but you want the calculation to be occurred at another level of detail apart from the row level of detail, which is at the data source level. If it's at the data source level, you don't have to need any fixed or include, exclude. But if it's excluding either of these two levels, not the data source level, not the view level, then without using include, exclude options, you cannot get that. So from Tableau version 9, what they did, they introduced something called these LOD expressions, fixed, include, exclude, and using that you can calculate a calculation keeping the with the different level from your level of detail of the view or the data source level. And let me just open up the page. Okay, great. So this is the so we have in total 3 level of detail expressions. This fixed, include, exclude is called fixed level of detail expressions, not the level of detail themselves. And we have 3 types of expressions. One is fixed, include, and exclude. Now this is the typical general syntax that follows for all these expressions. So we're just looking at a fixed one. We'll come to the others when required. So if you see here, we have 4 main parts. One is the scoping keyword, which is your level of detail expression itself, and then for which dimensions. Basically, this is the level at which you want it. You want the calculation to be calculated at. You'll specify here. If you have multiple, you can just put a comma and do that. Then you have what measure that you want to calculate, and by what calculation you want. You want a sum or min or count distinct or etc. So this itself gives you a at that level calculation. Now I have put a small example for us to understand what's happening here. So yeah, so this simple view, what I have here is I have for every country, I've just dropped my average sales. Simple, plain simple average sales. Now in US, I can see my average sales is around 230. Whenever we have a calculation, it occurs at a certain level of detail. And at what level do you think it's this particular calculation is happening? So far we have discussed data source level. And so can anyone think of anything like how this number is achieved?
I think it's currently happening in country level, since I can see the countries dropped in detail.
Correct. So for each country, I have a value. Exactly right. So if we go into a certain country, let's say US. Okay, this 230 number. So at this point, I'm only looking at US records that are belonging to country US. Now, how from those records this particular value is achieved? What's Tableau doing behind to get this value behind 230?
It's adding the sales of that country and doing an average of it. Total number of records for that country divided by the total number.
Okay, so yeah, so total number of sales for the from US and divided by number of records. Is that what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that's right. But that's true. So it's working at a row level. So it's dividing by number of records. That's why it's working at a data source level of detail. That's why it's taking denominator as number of records. But let's say we don't want that. We are interested in seeing a value. Hey, for each country, give me average sales value in a state. So for example, what is the average sales value in US state? I want that to be displayed here instead of a row level calculation. So we know the calculation how it should proceed. I should simply get the sum of sales of US and divide by number of states. That's correct. That will give me average sales value for a particular state. Now, how do I get that? So so if you see here, I wrote a simple calculation using my fixed LOD. Let me open fixed sales. Can you guys see this? Okay. So what it's doing, let's I have two fixed LODs here. First, let's see what's happening here. So since I need a calculation to work, at a no, I want my calculation for every country, but I need the sales of each state, right? So what I'm doing here is basically I'm getting fixed state sum sales. So what it gives me is for each state, it will give me some of the sales. If you guys are familiar with the group by function in SQL or Python or R, this fixed state is similar to that. What does group by give us is whatever the group by field, and it will aggregate rest of the columns that we want to that field. So currently it's doing the same thing. So each fixed statement thereby generates a certain table behind. So what this fixed statement that is highlighted will give is, for each it will give each record as a state and the sales in that particular record as a value to that state. So this table we got. Now we are taking average for each country on a country level from this table. Instead of taking from the data source table, which is at a row ID level, now we created a certain another temporary table which is at a state level with the sales in it, and we are taking average on this. So it's very similar to the one which we saw earlier where we got average sales simple. We are now creating, just added a new table and we are taking average on that. Thereby what it's giving me here is okay. So yeah, if you focus on US, the value is 46,882. So what is this value? This value is the average sales value in any state. You understood the difference between the first one and this one, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so fixed level of detail is we can use them to create these type of calculations. And let's go to example on the include one. Okay. Region. So here I have a simple view which says gives me average sales for each region. Okay. Now this average sales is similar to one we saw earlier. It works at a data source level. So basically it divides this by number of records in North Asia region as numerator as a total sum of sales. This we know, but let's say I want to know average value of average order value. Okay, average order value in this particular region. Instead of row level, why order ID is different from row level? Because a person can order a single time multiple products. So all these multiple products will have single order ID but have multiple records. So row ID is not same as order ID, and I want the value. So what is the average order value in each of these regions? That's what I'm looking at. And when I put average sales, the value that it is giving it is a row level, so it's not the value that I want. So how do I get the order ID level? It's simple. First thing, I need to understand where my view is at. So what is my level of detail of the view? My level of detail of the view is each region. I don't have order ID. Okay. What I can do is I can create a calculated field that says include is something that adds an additional dimension onto the existing level of detail of the view. Let me just yeah. Can you guys see this image?
Yeah.
So what it's doing here is you have a WIS level of detail. My WIS level of detail is region at this in the current example that we are going through, and these are the dimensions that are used to get to the WIS level of detail. Okay, and this is the dimension that I'm including using a include expression. Okay, so my calculation will occur at this level. Though my WIS level is at this level, I'm including this dimension with the include expression, so my calculation will aggregate at this level. And after getting the calculation at this level, since my I need to show the results that are happening that are produced at this level to this level, so it will aggregate them. It will aggregate them to this level. You understood, right? So for example, here we have at a state level, and here we are doing calculation at city level. I cannot put the city level calculations in a state level. I need to somehow aggregate them, either minimum or average or sum. Then only I'll be able to pull this value at a state level. So what it'll do is calculate the value at the next level and then aggregate them back to the this level of detail. So that's what we are doing here. What we need here is we need order ID to calculate the average and put them back to region level. So let me open the calculation field quickly. So I've just included order ID and give me some sales. So for in each region, it'll create a table in each region for all the orders that are emerging from that region. It'll create a sales value, that simple table, and after that table is done, my aggregation is important here. So since we just saw, I'm using average aggregation, and it's from that created table, it's taking the average value and giving me this number. So this would be the value that which we are interested in. So the average value of the order, any general order from this region. Clear, right?
Jagdish, I have one question here.
Yes.
So currently we are using include order ID average sales. What will be the result if we use fixed order ID average sales? Mostly same, right? Or will there be any difference?
Fixed order ID average sale. I think okay. Let me actually. What you want to change? You want to fix it order ID?
Order ID, some sales, yeah.
Some sales, okay.
So Jagdish, just make a copy and edit now, so that way we can compare both. And
Yes.
Yeah, it's same, right? Yeah.
It happens that to achieve a certain number, we can there could be multiple processes. Okay,
Yeah.
but the difference between fixed and exclude, there is a significant difference that to be considered between fixed and exclude in terms of filters and other things. We'll come to them in the later sessions, but it's not. You shouldn't be surprised if the same calculation can be achieved using fixed or include or exclude.
If you could see West and Caribbean, the numbers are different.
Where?
West and Caribbean, yes, for those two. It's 450.3 and 6.
Is it? Yeah. Okay, I'll take a look at them and I'll come back later.